Hey guys, what's going on? This is a video response to Luke Thomas. He recently did a video in response to the Ariel Helwani Conor McGregor ESPN interview.
But in general, MMA interviews are not real. They're not real. And this comes from somebody who's been doing them in large part for 12 years now.
And it wasn't so much the actual content about the Conor McGregor interview in particular, but he talked about the fallacy, the falsehoods of a MMA interview, right? The interviewee interviewer relationship. Talked about that it was fake. It's not real. Um, there's very little legitimacy to it. I'm gonna set a little groundwork here. All right. I haven't been the biggest fan of Luke Thomas, and that's not a dig at him. You know what? It's not even so much like like. It's not that I don't like Luke Thomas. It's just that I never got into his style, right? Everybody has a certain style, and you either like it or you don't, right? It's not a dig on him or nothing like that. So, blah 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 blah. I don't want anybody, Josh is talking shit about Luke Thomas. It's not. It's not. That's not what it is, right? He might see my stuff and be like, "Oh, that guy sucks." Whatever, that's all good. Um, it, let me say this too. I probably don't even have a spot at the dinner table, so to speak, to really talk about this. We're nowhere near on the level of MMA fighting, MMA junkie, Ariel Helwani on ESPN. We're 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 so far away from the fucking conversation. Like I'm hey, I got a bullhorn, right? So people can hear me. We're nowhere near the conversation, but it was an interesting video. I loved his breakdown of it, and I'd like to offer just my 2 cents on it, if I could. This was probably the most honest Luke Thomas I've seen, right? And I appreciated it a lot. Um, I appreciated his candor, and I appreciate him speaking out. And I appreciate a lot of the things that he said. And maybe that's part of the reason why I wasn't attracted to his style because it wasn't him, like he talked about. He said it almost kind of ate at him the way he interviewed, and he just didn't like the whole process because, you know, you either speak your mind or you can play the dog and pony show and interview people. It's hard to do both, right? I know exactly what he's talking about, right? And a lot of people who've done podcasts or shows or it doesn't even have to be sports stars so much, right? It could be anybody. You can interview anybody, any guest. It is a little dog and pony show, right? A lot of people won't break it down to you like this, but most interviewers, right? They're looking to pull certain answers from the interviewees. And in our case, we interview MMA fighters, boxing, bare knuckle, and you're trying to pull a certain response from your interviewee. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, right? In the hopes that when we post the clip of the interview, or if we're going live and we clip out that particular section of the interview, we're hoping that maybe there's some buzzwords in there, maybe there's something exciting, maybe there's something controversial that the interviewee said, something that we can put on the headline, so and so says such and such, right? And it grabs your attention, like, oh shit, I need to click on this, right? Because most interviews, whether they're really intelligent or really informative or whatever, some people don't click on them if there's not a nice little buzzword, nice little headline, nice little pretty little thumbnail attached to it. They just they just won't. And it's just the way it is. It's just the way how the social media entertainment world has kind of evolved. It's whatever looks the most attractive is what people are going to click on, right? Sometimes it coincides with substance, right? There's some people with substance and it looks pretty. It's a nice whole package, right? And then there are some people with substance, but it doesn't look pretty. There are a lot of people that look pretty with no substance, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know who you are. I appreciate everything that he said. So as I was talking about with as the interviewer trying to pull certain information, the interviewee is trying to, they're trying to get their message across too, whether they're promoting a fight, promoting their team, promoting their school, promoting a sponsor, whatever it is, right? It's a mutual exchange, okay? They're coming on using your platform to promote themselves, right? As hey, that's what it's there for, right? They come on to promote themselves, promote their brand, promote their fight, promote their the company they work for, etc., etc. So like it's a dog and pony show. It's a I try to extract from you. I'm gonna like so interviewee extracts, interviewer. I'm sorry, interviewer extracts, interviewee pushes, right? They're the ones that's giving out that information. They're the ones that's pushing the information, right? And it's mainly entertainment because you get off the air sometimes with these people, and it's an entirely different relationship. A lot of people, um, there are several people that are involved in the fight game that I talk to outside of what you see on screen, like the outside of the interviewee interviewer relationship, and it's different. It's different vibe, different conversations. It's just the way it is. It's a show. It's an absolutely entertainment show. That's all it is. It's a show for well, I mean, it's a show for you. It's a show for the fans. It's a show for the people, right? That's all it is. And hopefully, there's some actual information somewhere in there that you can take from it, right? Hopefully, there is some real deal, maybe some breaking news, maybe a fight announcement, maybe there's something, hopefully you get something out of it that is legit informative, right? It's just the way it is. I want to talk about another part too, where he talks about dropping the moniker of journalist. 100% agree. I've had this discussion with people before. There was a back and forth with some people on YouTube in the comment section. Imagine that, right? Uh, Talking about being experts and stuff. I, I'll say this, and maybe I'll get some backlash from it. But here's the way it is, right? People can talk about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. That doesn't necessarily make them an expert, right? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Especially when it comes to things that are opinionated, right? How can you be an expert of opinions, right? Maybe you can be an expert in terms of the facts, like win-loss records, um, uh, takedown percentages, striking percentages, things like that. That you can be an expert of because they're factual, they're factoids, they're actual numbers, they're things that exist. How can you be an expert of an opinion? I'll give you a second. Okay. Now that you thought about it, it just can't happen, right? Um, I understand what he means by journalist. I've never considered myself a journalist at all because I agree. You can either say how you feel or you can play the show, right? I don't mind playing the show sometimes, and it's not that I dislike doing interviews, but there are some people, and there are some times where it's a struggle, man. It's an absolute struggle at times. It really is. Pulling answers from people. People come on, and sometimes people one, two, three word responses, and it's a struggle. You're trying to pull information out, and it's just, how are things going? Good. How's fight camp going? Great. What do you think about your opponent? Uh, right? Like, and I would never call anybody out. I respect, like I said, again, I will make it clear again. I respect everybody involved in the fight game. So, like I said, this isn't like a dig. It's not a dig on anybody in particular. These are just my thoughts, right? Well, these are my response to Luke Thomas's thoughts, but I share a lot of the same opinions, right? I share a lot of the same opinions that he does. I think that it is interesting, and maybe it's kind of breaking the fourth wall. Is what Luke Thomas did. He essentially kind of broke that fourth wall. And it's almost like when people started talking about pro wrestling was fake, right? Or choreographed and scripted. It's almost like breaking that fourth wall barrier. It was like people kind of know that it's fake, but then people actually started coming out and saying, you have wrestlers come out and do shoot interviews and this and that back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and then the whole business was exposed and blah 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 blah. It's interesting. Obviously, apples to oranges, but it's an interesting comparison. I get what he's saying. I agree with a lot of it. I really do. Again, nowhere near on the same level, but the hundreds and hundreds of interviews that we've done, I get what he's saying. Sometimes you say stuff and people don't come back for whatever reason. Maybe you said something they didn't like, and maybe, you know, I I don't get it. Some people are super sensitive and they don't understand that dichotomy, right? Of you trying to pull information. That requires a question that sometimes that requires a question that you may not necessarily like, right? But it's for the benefit. You might think it's not for the benefit of both parties, but it kind of is, right? Because in return, if I ask you a controversial question, or the fighter, or whoever it is, if you ask some kind of a semi-controversial question, and either they get upset or they give you a controversial answer in return, boom, there's views, right? That helps the interviewer, that helps their podcast or their videos or whatever the hell platform they're doing it on, and it gives attention to the interviewee as well. They're like, hey man, did you hear what so and so said on Combat Insiders? That shit was crazy, right? So now it's like attention for both sides. A lot of people don't understand how that works. They don't understand the game. They don't understand that this whole thing it is a game, right? It is a game. It's the entertainment side. Combat sports, while it is, it's hey, in a perfect world, you win a fight, you go up the rung. You lose a fight, you go down a rung. That's simple. But that's not the way it works, right? You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. There's all these intangibles. There's how you won the fight, how you lost the fight, how good can you talk, how good do you look, uh, you know, so on and so forth. There's several intangibles that it's just not as simple as I won, so I'm going up the ladder of popularity or the ladder of competition or the ladder of insert whatever and ladder of rankings, whatever. Insert whatever you want. This is kind of a long-winded response, but like I said, I just kind of wanted to put my two thoughts out there. That's really all I got. I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on this, and I appreciate Luke Thomas coming out and talking about it like that. And bottom line is right. You can either say how you feel, or you can be a journalist. It's There is no two ways about it. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe.